Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here, and welcome to our session on why inventory counting still breaks and how to fix it. I'm Scott Robertson, VP of Optimization and Strategy with Tavarna and 79 Consulting, and I'm joined by Eric Holzer, our Senior NetSuite Architect, who's worked with hundreds of teams, from campus stores to distribution centers to manufacturing plants, helping them make sense of the inventory chaos that keeps both operations and finance awake at night.
Yes, that's very accurate. So inaccurate inventory counts can contribute to long or, even sleepless nights. Scott, even a minor inventory count inaccuracy can really make a significant impact on revenue and, of course, added expenses. Well, anyway, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about a topic that too often does not get enough attention until year end. With a good strategy and a little luck, maybe we can save some warehouse managers a few extra gray hairs every December coming up.
Exactly. And speaking of December, here we are in November, which means inventory counting season is right around the corner. So whether your fiscal year closes in December or January, now is the time to tighten up your process and make sure that, your year's count doesn't turn into a fire drill. So that's what we're here to help you with today. And by the end of this session, you'll have a few simple, practical ways to make your next count smoother, faster, and we hope a lot less stressful. And if you hang with us until the end, we've got a few bonus tips that can make an immediate difference. So here's what we're going to cover over the next half hour. The most common challenges that companies face during inventory counts, the real financial toll that these challenges can take, a few practical tips and tricks to make your next count easier, and finally, a few quick walkthroughs of our inventory count solution to show how it helps fix these problems without needing a full warehouse overhaul. And then, of course, we'll end with a live with some Q&A. But before we dive in, we'd love to hear from you. We're launching a quick poll on the screen now. So if you'll tell us which of these challenges your team struggles with the most. And no surprise there, it looks like the majority of you are saying option E, which makes sense that people have multiple issues that they deal with. And I'm guessing, Eric, that pretty much sums up what you hear every week, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Most every client, we all think our problems are quite unique. And while some inventory can be quite unique, a large majority of our clients realize they're all struggling with the same things, just at different scales.
That's a great point. So why don't we start there then, Eric? What are some of the most common challenges that you see when you talk to companies about their inventory counts?
Yeah, there really are quite a few, but for instance, I'd say the lack of barcoding is quite common. Not all warehouses have barcodes, and that's a huge hurdle to implement. We've had clients who still rely on spreadsheets and clipboards, which is completely fine as well. And that leans into some data entry errors, though, in the end, whether it be missed bins, unit of measure calculation errors, and frankly, just a really stressed team. Then, of course, there's the human factor, right? Often people just don't like walking through the facility counting items. They're not familiar with the warehouse for bringing in extra folks. And they spend a lot of extra time just trying to identify the inventory. It's not exciting, it's not comfortable, and it's definitely not that fast. So another challenge is dealing with the different types of inventories, whether it be serialized items, lot controlled inventory, mixed stock and bins, multiple units of measure, just to name a few. Right. Once you throw all that in, the process gets complicated pretty fast.
Yeah, that's a lot to consider, and quite frankly, it sounds pretty stressful. If when you meet with clients who are struggling with all of this, what kind of questions do you start with?
Yeah, that's a good starting point. We usually try to go down, try to figure out what the average shrink is, right? Year over year. Is it growing? Is it coming down? And we ask things like, do you have barcode scanners? How many SKUs do you stock? Are they tracking serialized or lot controlled inventory? Those questions help us understand their mix of what they're dealing with, and then that defines the complexity of their inventory and the counting process.
Okay, that makes sense. So, kind of when you're starting, you're not just really fixing a counting problem. You kind of begin by mapping the anatomy of their inventory itself.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where a lot of systems and people break down. Right? A full stock take can be a very daunting task. Trying to find a carved down process can make this far more manageable.
Hmm. So, one thing that I'm thinking about is the financial toll of this. So, let's talk a little bit about what this all means financially. So, we know shrinkage is painful, but how bad can it get, Eric?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, if we think about it this way, right, even a 2% inventory count error can eat into your profits by, say, 8 to 10%. And that's real money. We've seen cases where losses go into hundreds of thousands of dollars just because of reconciliation errors or late adjustments. When considered, the warehouse is really a bank vault, and inventory is dollars on the shelf.
Man, I've never thought of it that way. And it makes sense that even a small error can really hit your profits hard. I mean, I'm thinking that, even if a company could improve their accuracy by say 60 or 70%, that makes a huge impact on the bottom line. And I'm guessing for most businesses, some that kind of improvement should probably be done in phases. I'm thinking steady improvement is probably more realistic than kind of a full overhaul overnight.
Absolutely. Incremental process really compounds fast when you're counting thousands of SKUs, right? So inaccurate inventory affects the whole organization when we consider it. Maintaining industry standards keeps sales moving with on-time item fulfillments, procurement teams buying the right amount at the right time, finance having accurate statements with minimal write-offs, and of course, happy warehouse staff running a smooth operation day in and day out. We don't need to have them running around putting out small fires every single day, and that can quickly change your environment. We do have a couple examples of this where we have the first one that kind of comes to my mind is we worked with a very large furniture retailer here in the States. They were losing roughly 250,000 a year due to inventory shrinkage and system mismatches. So we introduced to them more of a batch-based approval and smaller count files, and that alone cut their variance dramatically and improved accuracy.
Wow. So, I mean, just doing the batching really makes that big of a difference.
It does, and it can, right? Different environments could have a different process, but doing it in this batch makes it far more manageable, right? Instead of cleaning up, say, some instances it's 100,000 lines of inventory count, you can fix smaller chunks faster, right? Carve it down. So, and another client we worked with, I was thinking of, it's one of the bigger universities here in the US. They run a massive bookstore with tens of thousands of SKUs. Year-end counting used to, freeze transactions for a full week. And, that's really difficult on a business to freeze everything for a full week. So they ended up switching to inventory count. Um, and then, kind of doing it in the same method of batching. And that really helped them reduce count time by all the way down to like 75%. And we even saw 115% year-over-year growth because faster counts meant better recording cycles and fewer stockouts.
Man, those are great examples. I mean, that I think both of those to me highlight how accurate counts, they don't just save headaches, but they really do translate to real revenue,
Yeah.
which is what we talked about earlier. So, before we dive into kind of, bigger solutions, Eric, what are some just kind of practical tips that you'd give teams as they get ready for the year-end inventory counts?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot that can be done to prepare, right? Before the count even starts. And there's a few easy wins for folks. This is an exhaustive list, but, one of the first things is clean up the data first, right? Deactivate old SKUs, consolidate your items. Where you can, empty the overhead bins and bring things down that's, reachable and visible so that, you're not trying to climb all the way up to find things that are hard to reach. I mean, basically, if it's in your system, right, somebody will waste time counting it because they're just unaware. Next is break your warehouse into zones. Don't try to count everything at once. Segment by zones, aisles, item type. It makes it easier to manage and really to verify your counts. Next is train your counters ahead of time. A quick 30-minute mock count the week before saves hours on the actual day. Schedule smartly, count during low activity hours, freeze transactions by zone if you can, not the whole company. Then use smaller adjustments to import. Even in NetSuite, uploading 100,000 lines requires multiple sheets, and it's really just kind of a nightmare to work through that data. So smaller imports is faster approvals, fewer errors, and then the records are, more usable in NetSuite, right, from a performance perspective. And if you can, stay away from handwritten inventory counting. If you can't scan, use Excel. Printed sheets is enough with item related information, right? So that the only thing being written is the quantity itself. And then one thing I'm really big on is really use color coding where it's possible and where it's feasible. Is some simple stickers can be great to help visualize progress or statuses. Typical thing I do is you red tag a bin or a shelf or an item if the discrepancy is greater than 10%. Yellow tag it if it's like damaged, expired goods, something you're unsure about the quality of. And then green tag is just, it's been counted and cleared and validated.
And those are excellent ideas and suggestions. And what I like the most about what I heard there is that anyone can really start doing one or more of those today. You don't need any new systems. You just need to be smarter at your prep and your processes.
Exactly. Two or three of these tweaks can make this year's end count drastically smoother, right? It goes physical prep, right? Inventory accounting is a physical activity. Getting that prep time is huge.
Thank you. I love those suggestions. All right, so let's talk then a little bit more about the fix. So when a client says, we're tired of manual counts, what's the smarter way forward, Eric?
It's good. Good question again. The smarter way is really just to make counting more manageable, measurable, and affordable. That's what we design with Inventory Count. It's a proprietary suite app from Travarna 79 Consulting that is rather well rated across the whole host of our clients and on NetSuite Marketplace. Some of its unique and really relevant features are things like, well, the ability to count in smaller, smarter batches. Instead of waiting for the entire count to be perfect before approval, you can improve in chunks by location, zone, product range, however you need to carve that down. It keeps work moving, helps identify issues earlier, and it prevents huge, say 100,000 line uploads that bog down NetSuite. The next piece is it's portal-based counting. Warehouse staff can log into a web-based portal to record counts. Everything syncs back into NetSuite real time. There's no batch processing there. It's an immediate live load. It's affordable and perfect for mid-sized businesses with growing teams. Plus, any user on the inventory portal side of it is not required to have a NetSuite user license. Another one is variance reporting to dashboards. So once counts are done and you see where the real problems are, instead of reviewing, tens of thousands of rows of inventory counts, you might only need to review 200 that have high variance. That way you can save up to 90% of your review time. We're bringing in AI into this, so it is intelligent and automated at the same time. It can show you anomalies proactively that you might miss otherwise. And that's something that we're feeding into our product ranges, a lot of this new, the AI push. So start small and scale up, right? You don't have to have barcoding on day one if you don't have it. You can start with Excel uploads, cycle counts, and evolve gradually. Like you mentioned earlier, even 60 to 70% process improvements deliver very visible ROI.
Wow, that's very impressive. So what I'm hearing is that inventory count not only makes the process less painful because it's a better way to do your counts, but also improves your visibility to your data and to the details of those counts. So we're not really reinventing the wheel. It just sounds like inventory count makes it much better.
Yes, exactly. So you're right on there. Smaller batches, cleaner data, and we move to zero wasted effort with that.
That is great. So that's a good overview, Eric. And I'm sure everyone's curious to actually see what this looks like in action. So you've mentioned batch approvals, portals, and dashboards. Can you kind of give us a tour of the Inventory Count app and give us an idea of what it does?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me move over to share my screen and we'll kind of do a quick navigation of what comes with the application and we'll move on to questions. Okay, can you see my screen okay?
Yes, we see
All
it.
right, so our product, like all of our suite apps, is built in NetSuite. You get a nice center tab, comes loaded with a handful of different analytics to help you understand what's happening in your inventory count, whether it be cycle counts or worksheets, ad hoc spot counts, whatever it might be. You get to see progression as data comes in, anything that's been failed, of course, cycle count statuses, what has left to be counted. We give you everything out of box like that. We do allow for worksheet import as well as live barcode scanning. You don't have to pick either or. You can do both or one or the other. It's up to you. We have a full cycle count arrangement here. So all of our cycle count plan templates are save search based. So you can use either an item type save search to drive the result for a cycle count, or you can run an inventory balance type save search to drive that type of cycle count result. Right. We also have automated scheduling in our cycle count plans. So you get to determine if you just want to run it one off, if you want it scheduled, you can do start end dates, frequencies, and calendar days, weeks, months, years, and we can automate that for you. That way you don't have to try and remember all your different cycle count plans. We also give you a link to a nice handy user guide on how to build your cycle count plans, how to build your save searches to drive them. Right. We also allow, we have a bulk approval screen. This uncounted item processing screen is a nice, helpful tool. This is really meant for at the end of your count, whether it be a cycle count or a full physical, you come to this page and we say, okay, we've counted everything in the warehouse physically. What does NetSuite think we still have? And this page will show you everything that you did not count that NetSuite says, well, you still have it on your books in NetSuite. So let's go ahead and we can run this page and it basically balances it out. It writes it off of NetSuite so that the physical world matches your ERP. We do give a lot of flexibility in how you configure the application. So there is an inventory count configuration where you get to determine maybe you want to freeze transactions during a count, or maybe you only want to freeze specific transactions during an account. This is all up to you. Nothing here is locked in stone. You can change these things as frequently or infrequently as you would like. We do have a retail version of the application that allows for something we like to call continuous scanning, which I will open up our portal and kind of give you a little preview here. This barcode scanner, since it's a portal, it really is just a web-based application. You don't install anything, it just rides in a web browser. So the performance, the feel of it is just like NetSuite. This application, we do not require net user licenses for. However, the company still retains credentials to who they want to have access to the data. Right? In this platform, you can only view and enter quantity. No edits are capable here. But we do get a nice menu. And this is a div-based program, so we can go all the way down to, say, a 2.5-inch screen size, cell phone larger. We have plenty of companies that use this program just on cell phones. And then we allow for this program to access the camera on any mobile device, so we can do optical barcode scanning, not requiring an expensive smart scanner. Okay, so if we come in here, we can go to our location. I picked Texas for our team who like to be in Texas. This icon here would open up the camera on any device, right? We give a spot to record if you're not a bin-based company or you're in a retail environment. You could record, say, the rack or shelf, if it's a hat rack or a pin board or, a clothing, like a hanger shelf. You can record any of that information there. So the nice simple side here in NetSuite is we do a quick comparison to say, is this a real active live item? We return some information back, and the user can simply enter in their quantity and move on. It's really that simple. That scan is already live on the ERP side. I don't have to wait for anything. It's ready to be reviewed in my successful counts or any other analytic I have. Okay. We have a list of different counting styles. So I can look at cycle count plans that have been assigned to me, my progress on cycle count plans, right? This is a pick list, of course, of items I need to go count, which I can submit and just count along. I also have the ability, we'll do a quick submission here, and I can see what's been counted. I can go back, right? We'll get a nice little status bar. This continuous scan feature is really geared towards, again, retail environments or environments where you have a lot of mixed product in a single place, single bin, single shelf. What I can do here is scan continuously from item to item to item without having to separate. So if I imagine I'm looking at a clothing rack of t-shirts, and I have small, medium, and large on a single rack. Well, I might not have time to have my users separate all the smalls and mediums and larges because oftentimes our customers don't put shirts back where they got them, right? This program allows you to continually scan different barcodes at once without having to separate them. And then we will continue to show you what you're scanning, right? And the idea is your user can continue to scan, and we will return to them to show them what they've scanned so far. When they're ready, they can preview, okay, I've scanned 2 of these, 3 of these. Maybe I could say, look, I had a misscan here. I can remove it before I submit my count. So the freedom is here for the counter. They hit submit, and now that is also live on the ERP side immediately. We also show the users everything that they've scanned so far during that cycle, what they've submitted. This is non-editable, right? Because it's live on the ERP side. If the person approving counts after reviewing variances, they can reject an item. It will show up here for the user to recount a blind recount of the item that was rejected. So once we've scanned our items, right, the user can view the items that they've scanned. It's live, and we can hop over into our bulk approval screen, right? The data that's coming in is really visible through 2 areas I typically point people to: the successful count data, everything that's been brought in so far, and then our bulk approval page. This is where we finally move from, safeguarded custom records to we're going to affect the GL. This is the last step. Okay, we come in here and say what location product was counted from at, the date range the counts occurred, and then we filter the page to say, show me all the information based off of those settings, right? It could be by a specific counter, a user. It could be by a cycle count plan, product categories, cost centers, however you need to carve this page down, right? Again, batches, smaller amounts at a time. I get 2 primary actions. I can bulk approve or bulk reject. If I'm unsure of what's happening in this data, down here, this is a summary view, I can click on to view the details. And this is where I get to see each line of count that came in, who counted it, it's counted by me, and then if it was associated to a cycle count plan, this is, an ad hoc count, the physical quantity, NetSuite quantity, or variances. If I don't like one of these because it's wildly off, maybe this one, I can just reject this line. With that one line rejected, I could technically come back to my bulk approval screen and say, I'm ready with this one, smaller batches. I can pick a date if I need to post date this or predate it, depending on when the counts occurred. I'm free to do so so that my inventory adjustment reflects the time the product was counted. If I leave this blank, we just assume today's date. So I would hit process, we submit, and off we go. This is where our application submits the data and we just really transpose it to a native inventory adjustment transaction in NetSuite and let NetSuite's costing and governance take over from there, right? On my rejected, I can come back to the portal and see, oh, I have some rejected items that need to be recounted. And again, this is intended to be blind, so the user doesn't know what they counted last time. They need to fully recount, just as we would expect. We put a new number in here, and we're done. It's already live back in our portal. That's the primary areas I really wanted to focus on today.
Thank you, Eric. That was really helpful. I did have one question. You mentioned earlier about a variance dashboard. Is that something that we can see?
Yes, of course. So the application does come pre-built with a dashboard for the user role, right? And as we scroll through, we can see there's all sorts of analytics and KPIs around inventory counting, variancing from costing to quantity, year over year, month over month, however you want to carve that out. You can look at it by location, and then you can see everything that's still pending processing all in one nice shot, right? And this is where we are, what we're working towards is ingesting AI in here to automatically detect anomalies and help carve those lists down to really focus on the larger variances or dollars that you need to look at.
Man, I love that. Yeah, I can see that how important that would be for real visibility into the results of a count.
Yes. So once we've submitted, it's live, it's ready to be reviewed for variance and either approval or another rejection, unfortunately. And then, Scott, that's really what we wanted to show today. Just a quick overview and a summary of our application.
Well, that is great, and I can tell it's very powerful, and but also very efficient, and does a great job of cutting through the clutter and helping you get right to the most important parts of your account. So, what I'm hearing, if I kind of recap what I heard from you, the ability to have portal access kind of keeps that counting flexible for your staff. The batch approvals make the process faster and more scalable. And then, the ability to see variances kind of cut through the noise and see exactly where issues are arising. And the best part is you can start small, right? You don't need full automation on day one.
Absolutely. That is the goal, right? It's actionable accuracy.
So before we wrap up, let's take a couple questions. So if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in the chat. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll send out a quick recap of the session so you can revisit the key points and share them with your team. But more importantly, if you'd like a personalized walkthrough, of course, we just did a quick tour of the app. If you'd like to kind of see a full walkthrough of the inventory count functionality that's for your specific situation, reach out to us. We can schedule a short session with your team after this call. And for sticking around, we just do want to let you know we have kind of an exciting offer as well. We have 10 spots still available for free trials for those of you who attended this call of our inventory count solution to use through January. So if you're interested, please make a note in the comment or reach out to us, and we'll get in touch with you to have a no obligation call and see if you are interested in the free trial for our inventory count.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. We're wishing you and your loved ones a very happy Thanksgiving. And remember, smaller batches, cleaner data.
Perfect closing line. Thanks, Eric. And thank you again, Eric, for sharing your insights, and for all of you for being here today. And as Eric said, I hope you have a great day and a happy Thanksgiving.